I don't know how on earth I would have made it through 2020 without this lovely lady right here. Mi amor, thank you so much for putting up with me over the last year. There's no one on earth whom I'd rather spend the next year of my life with.
Guys, you've just seen the grand gesture for the very first time.
Yeah.
Initial impressions. Are we happy with it?
It blew me away in the
Okay.
sense of, like, one, it was visually stunning. Absolutely loved it. And two, like, of course, like, we had gone over the script multiple times together. But it just, like, you don't ever really put it together until
Sure.
you see it.
Yeah.
So that's something that I was left with, like, whoa. Like, I'm just still stunned by it.
That was one thing. Zeb Lunds, who was the second assistant director on the film, he was pretty much there every step of the way. He's read the script. He was there for all 4 days of shooting. And even then, he admitted to me, kind of after I showed him a rough cut, he said, I guess I just didn't see the vision while we were doing it, but now I get it, right?
Yeah.
It's so cool, I guess, to see it come together.
No, definitely. Even me, because you guys, I guess, you already knew a bit more about the project, whereas you sent it to me.
Sure.
And me reading it, I was like, oh, well, yeah, this could be good. But after seeing it with the score and, after the reshoots and
Sure.
the green screen shots, it's like, whoa, this is actually really good. Especially
cool.
for it just being a short. But yeah, I was super impressed.
Well, that means a lot to me coming from you after some of the sets that you've been on. And
Yeah, man. And the way you handled the set was just like that. And then to have heard that you've only done this a handful of times. Oh, man, this guy's, he's got it down.
Yeah, that's why I really trust like you and Jack, just like with everything.
Definitely.
I trust him with everything because, like, yeah, we worked on great sets, but we've also worked on not so great sets.
Yes.
Especially in Houston, like I had already moved and we were trying to figure out like when I could come to shoot and whatnot.
Yeah.
But yeah, in Houston, I've always been real touchy about who
you work
to
with.
work with,
Yeah.
because I have done like the student films and, they're learning. And,
Yeah.
and so were you, but it's just, I guess the way, I don't know if it's your background, like already being in like
He's
work
just
in
super
studios
talented.
Yeah,
That's the thing. Like,
that's what this is turning into. Okay.
yeah, no. Whenever I talk about the grand gesture, whenever people hear short, they're like, oh, like
Sure, student film.
Yeah, and I'm like,
exactly.
no, like, yeah, we're college age students, but
Right.
that doesn't mean anything. And so whenever I talk about the grand gesture and you, I'm like, look, I would never work with someone just from school.
Sure.
And like we're friends. And so I normally keep that professional relationship the way that it is.
Yeah.
But with you, it's like it's something special with you.
Okay.
Literally.
Okay.
It's a full fleshed out story and, it's a 10-minute film and
Sure.
you can definitely see where you can take it to a feature. But you mentioned earlier, that you just put yourself a reel together.
Yeah, right.
I think you definitely have to have that
Yeah.
for whenever you start, especially if you're going to be trying to pull in actors, that have done things like
So whenever you start casting, like what you're doing now is great. Like your website and everything. Whenever people go to look for you on the internet as like as a director,
Yeah.
that's the first thing they're gonna see.
Yeah, they're going to see let me see his work. What has he
Right.
done?
And that's honestly that's something that I do all the time. I'm like, who is this person? Who's directing
Like,
this?
when we worked on Rich Kids, Una, who was the cinematographer, I went to her website and I said, oh man, this is going to look really good.
Yeah.
See
Yeah.
what they do. You see
Exactly.
their work and all of that.
That's kind of the hard part of when you haven't really done that yet. Like I had done a 33-minute short film when I was 17, and then shortly after that I did another 10-minute one that I really just kind of hurried up and finished and just to get on to the next thing. And so, but I don't want to show that to like you guys and say, hey, come be in my movie, because that's like, no, I know I can do better than that.
Right.
Yeah.
But you're just going to have to trust me a little bit, and you guys absolutely did put that trust in me, and I thank you guys for that, because
Yeah.
for a while, and especially with you, Ulysses, because I didn't have any experience with you. I mean, obviously, Michelle and I had known each other for a couple semesters at University of
It's
Houston.
like 2 years.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, at
2
least a year and a half or so.
Yeah.
But with you, I really wanted to make a good impression.
Yeah.
Oh, that's all.
I heard
That's
from-
all he talked
I
about.
heard from you, right?
Yeah.
I was nervous about that because I just want everyone to be relaxed and having a good time.
Yeah.
And that brings me to a question that I've been kind of thinking about, which is, Ulysses, was there any, not was there any, but maybe describe the value that having kind of an ally like Michelle on set
Yeah. That was
because
everything. That's what I was gonna say before you even asked this
Yeah.
question. It's like that's the main reason why I gave it the time. Is that because Michelle is okay? Michelle knows this guy, and I'm obviously really good friends with Michelle. And,
Sure.
And if she's gonna do it, then okay. I'm
Yeah,
in,
and honestly, like, and you both know, because like you're both close to me. I wouldn't bring one of you on a project if I didn't believe in it.
Sure.
I wouldn't have. Like, if let's say you were somebody else and I tried to bring Ulysses in, I would never rope him in the first place if I didn't believe in the project.
Yeah.
Like, if I got the part and I'm like, okay, great. And if they were looking for someone else, but I wasn't really feeling it, I would maybe let him know, but I wouldn't put my heart into it.
Sure. And
you
if
know?
he asked, hey, would you really, you might say,
Yeah, like if you want
You might be able to find
to.
someone else, or
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think like on the ally part, it's really, really important.
Yeah.
But always keep your people close.
for sure.
Always. Yeah.
And your enemies closer. But but right, like when you walk onto a set, I mean, if Rachel had been played by a different actress, would maybe that have been, because now you're going into it completely, not only just, am I going to do this or not, but now I'm here on set
And I don't know anybody.
and it's just nothing but strangers
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you're back home in Houston,
Yeah.
but is that a little different? And would that have maybe not made you be able to get comfortable as easy?
No. I definitely would have been able to get comfortable, but I would have really been. I guess I would have been watching to see how professional, like from the get-go. Like,
Sure.
I was already coming in like, okay, cool. At the worst, I'm spending time with Michelle and we're just having a good time, you know?
Yeah.
Sure.
And we're just having some fun. But as soon as I start seeing the professionalism that you actually had, crew guys helping you
Yeah.
out, and the amount of, extras that you were able to get for a party scene, I was like, oh man, like you actually got a good amount of people.
Sure.
Considering, it was late and,
That was something that was kind of interesting about your performance. It was going to be kind of tricky because when we had the extras there day one, yeah, you were going through kind of that monologue. But then day two is when we were really getting your coverage and there was no one downstairs for
Yeah.
you to really interact with.
Yeah.
I mean, was that difficult? Was that its own challenge? What was that like?
I just kind of put myself in the day before.
Yeah.
Basically, it's like, okay, well, I know what it feels like now having them there. So you pretty much I just placed myself back into the day before when there was people there.
That's so fun.
Yeah, that definitely helped. And
Yeah, my goal the
there
whole
was
time.
no rush. I didn't feel rushed.
The way
which
that
is
you
the
guys
best, you know?
kind of took care of the set, it felt like a feature film set.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right,
for
good.
Sure. It did.
And yeah, it was a skeleton crew for sure.
Yeah. But those are
but-
some strong bones with Adam and Graham and those
Right,
guys.
and they're all
exactly.
extremely talented.
Yeah.
But no, the way that you guys all went about it, it felt like a feature film.
That's awesome. That's so good to hear.
And then watching it, like watching David's character, I definitely got the show You on Netflix.
okay, yeah.
Like those vibes. I was like, man, he'd be good like as that type of role.
Cool.
And I had
Yeah.
I had never met David until, we worked together.
Yeah.
And to know that he's a Houston actor who's, moved to New York and trying to, get bigger roles. It's like, oh
Yeah.
man, yeah, this is good.
Well, and you and I have talked about this, and Michelle, I think you and I as well, because I know for sure you've got a lot of theater experience. Do you have theater experience?
Not much.
Not much.
No. So
Okay.
that's how I found acting, is doing a little bit of theater in college.
Oh, interesting.
I was injured one year because I ran track, and I was injured one year. And so I was like, well, let me try this. They were doing like auditions, and I went to a small university. So I was like, well, let's just give it a try.
Yeah.
And that's where I found acting
now we're
and found
here.
that community. And I
here
was
we
like, oh,
are.
this is dope, And then so after that, I was like, well, let me find a TV film class to get in. And then I got into a class. I was still in college. And then I was still going through my master's. But by that point, when I was getting my master's, I was already signed to an agency. And it just kind of started going from there. And, had I not found that little theater group,
Yeah.
I wouldn't have even touched acting. It wouldn't have ever crossed my mind.
Yeah,
I was
and-
always into it.
And now here you are in
yeah,
LA.
man.
And
Doing the thing.
It took my life in a completely different trajectory, and it's cool. It's exciting, and it's looking back to whenever I was running track, I thought it was all going to be like athletics, and then you're going to end up like coaching. I'm still doing that. That's definitely a passion of mine because it's gotten me to where I am today. But my life has taken on a different passion as well, and so I'm able to kind of take on both of them consecutively at the same time.
That's fascinating. I mean, when I was first looking to cast Reeve, right? Like I knew you were Rachel. I knew David was Lawrence. Like I had that. Reeve was a question mark for a long time.
A really long time.
And
Was it just a list of who Michelle wanted to kiss?
yes, that's what it came down to. I was like, Can you just rank these guys?
Let's just rank them, right?
Yeah, let's just go with that.
But when I watched Rich Kids, because Michelle invited me to go see the movie when it was playing at a Cinemark or AMC or something or another, I was looking for Reeve like during that time, and I saw the film, and just one thing that really stood out was it's like, man, that one guy just stole the scene. Like every time he was on screen, and I knew because at the time I was looking for a guy who could kind of draw the line between lovable and hateable. And in that movie, you play kind of the antagonist, the villain. But I couldn't help but love you the whole time. I was just like, I think he's funny. I like him.
Okay. Yeah.
And so, but I didn't put it together until like weeks later. I was just kind of thinking, man, who does Michelle know? Like maybe she knows somebody. Yeah. I'm like, hey, wait a minute, what about that one guy? And then just kind of
just went from there.
Just floated that out there. It's like, hey, what about Ulysses? I mean, where's he at? You know, I watched it. I sat there in a theater and like saw kind of what you can do.
Yeah.
Whereas if I went through the casting process and I see what a person looks like in an audition, that's not necessarily going to be the best reflection.
Right.
Yeah.
And I could go through all that and still not find someone who would be as good as you, or I could just say, you know what, that's my guy. Let's do what it takes to get him. And so that's how I landed on you. And you were not the guy I had in mind when I kind of visualized him when I was writing it. I told
Was it a Latino guy?
No,
not at all.
okay.
I was thinking of like a white guy with a beard and like a long like a man bun.
Okay.
So think super like
hipster kinda.
hipster
Interesting.
2018 type deal.
Okay.
Yeah. Super specific, like Instagram hipster
Like,
type
okay.
deal. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. But you weren't that. But what you were was you did draw that line.
Yeah. And those shots we did, the slow-mo shots walking down the street.
Yeah.
Man, those were awesome.
Those
Yeah,
were
definitely,
really
yeah.
cool.
Everyone liked those.
Yeah.
And it was freezing.
It was cool.
Freezing.
I remember that.
That was a great. I mean,
I pieced out that night, and
Yeah,
were
you
like,
were gone
okay,
at that
got
point.
another like 15 minutes.
We were up to like 3 a.m.
Yeah, it was a late night.
Yeah.
We walked down the street kind of towards that Galleria area, and it's this like overpass bridge kind of area, and we walk kind of just down the sidewalk, and the walk feels longer than I thought it was going to be. It's like, man, this is a longer walk than I thought. And I'm carrying, the DJI Ronin and the camera and everything, and like my shoulders are already just dying from the rest of the shooting that we had done that day. And of course, freezing cold, and we get under there, and it's just blowing this hot air, just blowing this warm air. We were like,
it's the best.
Beautiful.
There was a couple of moments during that night that I'll never forget. Like one of them was just when we were walking back, and Zeb and I were taking turns carrying the Ronin, and you were just like, hey, let me take it. I was like, okay, man, I'm not gonna make you do that. And you just walked out like it was nothing, made us look like bitches.
Because both of y'all were so exhausted, passing it back and forth.
That's so funny. Oh my goodness.
But it's like, those are the great memories that you make whenever you're doing projects like this. And especially like this being one of the earlier ones that you do, you're going to hold it, true to close to your heart, I guess.
Especially when you have a great experience.
And especially when you start moving into doing your features. You know, it's like,
And don't you think, when I think back on kind of some of the memories that I made, not even just on this project, but kind of all the projects that I've done, it's always kind of the moments of adversity that are where those memories kind of come from. It's like that first night, it was so cold, and we were struggling. A couple nights later, we were kind of hustling to get all these shots together, and I was limping at the same time and could barely walk. But that's kind of stuff that I look back on and say, you know what, that was fun.
Yeah, like when we were shooting Rich Kids, like a lot of my scenes, or like towards the end of my scenes, they were going to like 2, 3, 4 in the morning. Yeah.
And the latest scene I had was like
still
8
working.
a.m.
8 a.m. Oh, yeah, I remember.
Really?
Overnight into 8 a.m. for them. But like I was still working at the time, and I was coaching at a gym.
Yeah.
And so I'd have to be there by 4:45.
You lived like, what, an hour and a half away?
No, well, from there, it was like 45 minutes. But I literally, there was a few times that I left set and went straight to work, slept like 15 or 30 minutes in the car, went to work, and then finally went home, got a little more sleep, and then went back to set. But, that's how it is whenever you're shooting.
Yeah, you're roughing it.
Yeah. So you edited the film yourself?
Yeah.
So you think if you were to shoot a full feature and direct, would you edit it yourself as well? Or do you think you'd start to kind of get those jobs too?
Well, and kind of what I've been thinking is like, if it is a bigger project like that, like a feature film would be, I might kind of hand it off to an assistant editor to create like an assembly cut put all the best takes together, and then I'll go through and do all that. And kind of in the meantime, while he's doing that, I might do a color grade, create maybe a LUT, a lookup table, which is kind of a color profile for some of the shots that I might use in the future. Might maybe dig into audio a little bit or visual effects, whatever it needs to be, and then circle back.
And what do you do the same thing with music? Because the music was great.
They were
on this.
incredible, yeah.
So I'm such a huge fan of Landon Trimble now, a Canada-based composer who just, I mean, he sent me kind of the first rough cut of kind of what he had been thinking. He was like, hey, just let me know what you think. I was like, this is so good that I feel like I can nitpick. And I just sent back like a whole page full of like revisions that I wanted.
Yeah.
But it was only because like if it wasn't as good, I'd have been like, thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But because it was that good, I was like, okay, I can maybe nitpick. And then the second time he had sent it back, it was perfect.
You could literally just be a director with him.
That's true.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now I've made some connections. Like now I've worked with Michelle. Now I've worked with you.
Yeah.
Now I've worked with David, because that was the first time I had worked with David, even though I've known him almost all my life.
Yeah.
Now I've worked with Landon and I've worked with Adam and Graham. Like that was the first time for all these guys. And now like,
And it was a pleasant experience for everyone, I think.
that was
Yeah.
that was the thing. I wanted to make sure like, okay, I want everyone to like want to do this again.
Yeah.
I want everyone to be kind of bought in.
And so what are your plans for the film now, moving forward?
For Grand Gesture?
Yeah.
I definitely want to do a feature. I think, I don't know, there's just so much you can do with it.
Right.
And that's the kind of the scary part when you head into a project like this is like, right now in this moment, there's so much I can do. But by the time the script is done, like I have to decide what it is that I'm going to do. I can't do everything that I want to do. You just kind of got to nail down what is going to be the best and the most compelling story.
Yeah, but then also one thing I have noticed is a lot of people stay flexible with it as well. Because when you're on set and if you're finding it not to work the way you thought it was going to work, or the way you had it imagined in your head, you've got to be flexible enough to, kind of take a turn, where you need to.
Well, and I talked about that with David when I said, when I saw you read, for Lawrence, I was like, oh, that's different. That's a little different from the way I had originally written it. So I was like, well, let me rewrite this, and then I'll just give David the freedom to say, like, hey, if you want to change the phrasing of certain things, do your thing.
Yeah.
And I did that with you, Ulysses, because again, you were not the person that I kind of visualized when I wrote it. And so I went to you and you and I got together and kind of sat down and rehearsed it a little bit. Not even really rehearsed it, but just kind of read through it a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I just said, I was like, man, you wouldn't say these things. These are dorky. Like you're too cool to say these things. Like find kind of the way you would maybe say the same sentiment. I mean, it's a cheesy end of year speech. Like make it your own, have some fun with it,
Yeah.
And I think you did a great job with it.
Yeah, I tried to stick in as close to what you had written, obviously. And then now, a year later, we shot that a year ago, having grown as an artist, the next time someone gives me that, freedom to just play with it, I'm definitely going to probably play with it a bit more.
Sure, yeah.
Be more open. But
do you think if I gave that to you today, where you're at now?
I think it'd be different.
You think it'd be different?
Yeah, I think it'd be different than what it was last year.
That's so cool. I love that about giving an actor, because an actor is an artist, and if a director is trying to just micromanage every little thing, it's not gonna translate well to the screen. It's not gonna be a good product.
Yeah, but also ultimately you have that final vision.
Sure.
So you have to make sure you kind of reel it into the way that you want, but also give the actor the freedom. And then I think we were talking about this earlier, that you and David were like, let's do it another way. He's like, okay, that was good. Let's try something else. Like just to have those different options that you can go with.
Yeah.
That's always fun. Like have it a way where you try to get the actor to do it the way, the way that you envisioned it.
Yeah.
But then also give them the opportunity, because that's when the gems come from the actor.
Yeah.
Give them the opportunity to just do something different. Just try something.
I might say, all right, David, do one for me, and then after I've got that, do one for you. Do your thing.
Yeah.
With you guys in particular, I mean, Ulysses, now you've been on these sets with, Better Call Saul. You've worked with Robert Rodriguez. I mean, that's so exciting.
And the thing about Robert Rodriguez, it was a very small, intimate crew. It was just him and a sound guy, because we worked on kind of like just a low budget little project.
Yeah.
But it was cool to be like in that personal of a relationship,
Sure.
of a working relationship with him is pretty much exactly what, actually it was less people than what the grand gesture was,
That's
It was
so cool.
literally 2 actors and 3 actors, 2 extras, and him and the sound guy,
That's so cool, and it says a lot about him.
Yeah.
When it's a guy who just loves it just because he loves doing it.
Yeah. And like he did, we did a shot where I was supposed to be like on the roof, like jumping off the roof or whatever. He shot it first on his iPhone, and then he's like, "Hey, look, check this out." Like showed me, look. But just to see someone like that still like using his iPhone just to get it, and he's all right. And then he brought his camera and did it with the camera, But
That's so cool.
it just says a lot as a filmmaker. The things that you have to do in order to flesh out your entire vision.
Yeah. Well, and again, that kind of goes back into giving the actor the freedom, right? I mean, if he is so kind of confident in his own ability, not only just as a storyteller, but a writer, a director, all kind of the responsibilities that he might be doing, and he can be just cool on set, and he's not got to be a tyrant, and he's not got to be a dictator. Like, who wants to work with that? Was there something in particular that he did that made you feel special as an actor, or maybe from your Better Call Saul experience, or any of your experiences?
Yeah, well, Better Call Saul, anytime I'm on set, I use it as a learning opportunity. I don't go to Video Village or anything. Well, if anything, I'm hanging out behind watching, like whenever I'm not on the set, whenever they don't need me. But I always stay around because I use it as a learning experience. I don't want to just be an actor. I eventually want to step into, writing something or directing something myself. So I'm going to stick around and take advantage of being on this professional set, this big budget set, and see how things work and see how they manage an entire crew. But I'm always either there ready for them to just be like, oh, okay, come step in here. You never want to be the actor that they have to go send to go find, So you always want to be around, and you always want to show that you're present, that you're a part of creating this thing that they're all creating,
Yeah.
And they've been creating it for 7 years. So you really got to make sure you just kind of step in and you're very professional, because they've gone through years they have their process basically locked down, especially after a show that's been on for 6 seasons or, 5 seasons. But yeah, and a lot of the crew went from Breaking Bad into Better Call Saul. So
Yeah.
a lot of the crew that I was talking to is like, yeah, I've been on since like season 2 of Breaking Bad, and like the makeup people, they've been on Breaking Bad, and they just kind of went into Better Call Saul. But you see all of that, and you just got to take advantage of being on a set like that.
Well, what about you, Michelle? I mean, is there something that a director can do on set that makes you feel like, okay, this director is not only just knows what he's doing or is talented or whatever, but I have a positive feeling associated with this production? Is there something in particular a director can do?
Really, just what you had said earlier, giving the actor the creative freedom. I've been on sets where we talked about this earlier, where the director will literally just tell you what to do. Don't get me wrong. I love when people tell me, "Hey, I want this," and can you give this to me? Yeah. I'm like, absolutely. Let's get a couple of shots. Let's see what we can do. And let me know if I'm giving what you want. Yeah. But I've been on sets where they'll tell me exactly what they want and then just repeat it 5 times. Yeah. They don't give me any type of additional direction. And then I'll find myself asking like, is there anything else? Yeah. Like, do you want me to do anything differently? No, the same thing. Okay. Give me something else. Like,
well, one thing I've learned is from that, because I've felt that way as well. But one thing that I've learned is like, if they're not saying anything, then it's good.
Right.
Like they're getting what they need.
Yeah, but the thing is whenever they keep going and they keep asking for another take. Yeah. I'm like,
well, what exactly are you looking for then? Since we
right. And I'm like, if there's not anything different that you want me to do, then why are we doing more? So definitely a director that knows what they want, but also having that liberty, giving everybody that space to be expressive and to show their art.
Too, right?
Correct. And not someone that's just going to sit there like, that's great. Next, Yeah. So definitely. And then that's where I've had my best experiences on set are with directors that are like, lovely, let's try it this way.
I feel like almost, and so, Ulysses, to your point, if they're not saying anything, that's probably a good thing. I almost feel like, because, I'll do like, video production, and I might have a client that might say, hey, can you do this? And I'll do it. And if they accept it in the first go, I'm kind of like, okay.
Did I get it?
Well, is this kind of going back to what I said about Landon, which is if it was bad, I might just say, oh, yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
Or is like, if they really saw that, okay, this isn't quite there, but I think this is my guy, then would they ask me for more things? It's kind of that's kind of a weird balance.
I think, but if it's your project,
Yeah.
you as a director, if it's your project, if you see something that you're not getting, you're gonna
say
approach it and
something.
Right.
You know.
Yeah. So
Where-
definitely,
yeah.
yes, communication.
Yeah.
Definitely.
What do you guys have coming up? I mean, are you working on anything right now? I know the world is kind of barren as far as film and
Yeah.
theater.
I mean, I booked a little indie, just a small role in an indie that shot in October.
Okay, a feature.
It's called Brute Force. Yeah, it's Tyler Posey. Was it his name?
No way.
Yeah, he was in it. Yeah. He's a teen wolf. So
Okay,
he's
yeah.
in the film. So it's cool. I didn't meet him. I literally just worked one day on set, but it was cool because I went back to California for a bit. I'm here because of COVID and all that. I'm just kind of hanging out with
So
the
you're
family
part-time, different states.
for the
Yeah.
holidays.
You
And
are
I'll
a
go-
moving target.
I'll
so-
go back in
Yeah.
January, but yeah. So I did that, and then I was telling Michelle's sister, who's behind the camera right now. But at the beginning of all of this in March, I auditioned for in April. It was supposed to be in March on my birthday weekend, which I thought was like going to be like, this is it.
Yeah.
This is good vibes. But I auditioned for Damien Chazelle, who's the director of La La Land, of Whiplash, and all of that. So my manager calls me. He's like, "Hey, dude, they want to see you for that." And I was like, "Oh, dope!" You know, because
What was going through your mind when you got
well,
that?
I was like, he's like, they want to see you on the 25th. They want to meet you on the 25th, and they want to test you on the 26th. And I was like, 26th? That's my birthday.
Oh
and
my
I was just
God.
like, I've had good luck with people auditioning on their birthday. I was like, this is it. This is dope.
jinxed it.
And then everything shut down. And I was like, oh no. And so they pushed it. They're like, it's okay. They're only shutting down for 30 days. They're doing travel ban. They're gonna do it after the 30 days because they got people. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we know how that went.
9 months later, but all
where
of that
we are.
happened. So they're like, it's gonna just be Zoom and
Yeah.
in April. And the good thing that came out of it is I did it in my childhood home where I grew up.
That's cool.
Where I started doing all of my auditions in my room and all of that. So that was cool. But obviously I met him and his wife via Zoom. Versus, it could have been
versus in person.
Yeah.
So I mean, but that was, I've had definitely good experiences throughout. But now 9 months in, and now I worked that job in October that I told you about, so it just gave me the itch again. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
what's next? I'm
It's like
really
once you
tired
get
of
a
this.
taste of it, you're like, I want more.
Yeah, it's an addiction.
And you
and
just want to keep working.
Yeah.
There was something that David said in his interview about an
Okay.
empty schedule.
Yeah.
It just feels like you're not doing anything.
Yeah,
and
it's
it's
his
like
worst
the
nightmare.
worst nightmare. Yeah. And I'm like, I have to be doing something.
But I think
all the
that's
time.
where us having to be creative ourselves
Yeah.
and make
Yeah.
our own stuff. Like the class that I'm in right now, they're really big on making your own
content.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like because what's attractive is someone that's busy, and
Yeah.
so just keep
And someone
yourself
who's willing
busy.
to work.
And so just keep yourself busy, even if you're writing your own stuff, and you're just practicing. It just shows that you're being a creative, and people want to work with creatives.
Yeah.
Creative people want to work with creative people. So
Sure.
but stepping into a co-star role where you just step into a moving project for a day, it barely scratches that itch, whereas
Yeah.
doing something for 2 weeks like
Yeah.
Rich Kids, it's like that's what an actor wants, because you can actually step into a character. You can actually become what's written on paper. And
But then does that make it so, you've got the one that kind of scratches the itch and it's like, all right, now I want to get busy. I want to just pack my schedule.
yeah.
But then does that other one, when that 2-week shoot ends and you do feel down about it, does it make you kind of, maybe you don't want to work on the next thing for a little while? Kind of.
That one's tricky.
I'm always ready to
I'm
Really?
always ready.
Okay.
It just
Always ready to
depends on what the vibe of that last shoot was.
Yeah.
Like, yes, I'm so sad. And I'm like, man, I wish I could continue to work on this, although it's over.
Yeah.
Send me to the next thing.
But then, because then you're just looking for, I wonder how it's going to turn out.
Right. And it'll come
to,
back around, and you'll see it. And whenever like Rich Kids came back around, we're like, whoa, so it really just gives you this well-rounded experience of everything.
Yeah.
But definitely just moving on to the next thing, because you make so many meaningful friendships and connections and meaningful work as well.
Yeah. Guys, I don't know how to wrap anything up. So I'm just going to kind of start thanking you for being a part of the Grand Gesture.
Yeah.
And we'll always have had this experience together, and that will always unite us. So thank you for being a part of not only my journey, but for allowing me to be a part of your respective journeys.
Thank
too.
you
Thank
for
you.
giving us the
Having us, yeah.
opportunity. I loved working with you, and I hope to work with you again
Oh,
in
yeah,
the
we're
future.
gonna be-
Absolutely.
Like you guys said, we're gonna stay busy. I'm just gonna pack calendars, and I'll be texting you guys all the
Sounds
time.
good.
And yeah, that's all I
man.
got.
Looking forward to it.
Awesome.
All right, bye.